Hey guys, and welcome back to another Camtasia lecture video. This will actually be your last um, lecture video for the semester, so you made it. We're gonna do one more video after this, but it'll be for the study guide to go over those exercises. Um, so in this video, we're gonna look at IRR, internal rate of return method. Okay, um, the IRR method, it's a little similar to the NPV method. The only difference is that we're trying to figure out what exactly is the return, or what exactly is the internal rate of return. So unfortunately we're still going to have to use the factor charts. If you do have a financial calculator, you can figure out the net present value using a financial calculator. It is not required for the course. There are a number of financial calculators out there. If you currently have one, great. If not, that's okay. If you are going to take a finance course, I would strongly encourage you to pick up one of these business calculators. I have two of them actually. The one I have is the BA2 Plus. It's by Texas Instruments. Great little calculator. Relatively inexpensive. I think they're anywhere between $30 to $40. Um, and I imagine there's probably cheaper ones out there. But if you're going to take finance, I'd look into a financial calculator. Probably will help you out. Anywho, let's look at the internal rate of return. So when we're talking about the internal rate of return, like I said before, this concept kind of piggybacks off of the net present value. The difference here is we're trying to figure out, hey, what is that rate of return that the investment promises us? Okay, so we can find the NPV basically by calculating the net present value, or let me rephrase that, getting the net present value to be zero. Okay, so when we're looking at the project's cash flow, right, when they're identical each year, that's huge, right? That helps us out tremendously. Makes it a lot easier for us to figure out what the IRR is. If annual cash flows are uneven, right, meaning they're not identical throughout the year, well, we got to use a trial and error process, unless you have a financial calculator or you use Excel. Okay, so let's go ahead and just quickly look at what are the rule of thumbs, right? Well, it's funny. The rule of thumbs, or the rule of thumb, single or singular, is very similar to what it was for the NPV, right? If the internal rate of return is either equal to or greater than that hurdle rate, or that minimum required rate of return, we call that a hurdle rate, right? That's that standard, or that predetermined benchmark that we say, hey, all projects that we invest in need to provide us with a return greater than or equal to or greater than, I don't know, 6%, right? And usually that hurdle rate, or that benchmark, if you will, good idea to make sure you calculate what your cost of capital is, or your average cost of capital, and use that as your hurdle rate. So back to the IRR rules. Again, if it's equal to or greater than the hurdle rate, we're going to accept. If it's less than that hurdle rate, obviously we're going to reject. Okay, so let's look at an example, right? Decker Company, they can purchase a new machine. New machine costs $104,320. It will save them $20,000 per year in cash operating costs, right? That makes sense. Why does that make sense? We're going to buy a new machine, right? Hopefully, this new machine is more efficient, so it will require less input, less material. Okay, all that working capital that we have. Presumably, break down less. Maybe it'll save us on repair costs. Okay, so that's how we guesstimated that 20,000. And they tell us that the machine has a useful life of 10 years, right? Again, that's an estimate, right? Are we going to use the machine for more than 10 years? Probably, possibly, right? So how do we calculate the internal rate of return? Well, again, very, very easy. We gotta, basically what we're doing is we're figuring out what is that present value factor, right? When we use the table, bear with me here for a second. When we use this table, we use the discount rate in the period, right? So now what we're doing to figure out what the IRR is, we're trying to calculate what this number is. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Let's look at an example. So how do you calculate the present value factor for the internal rate of return? Very simple. What's the initial investment required? What's the annual net cash inflows? You divide those two, right? We end up with 5.216. Okay, that's our present value factor. So guess what we need to do? We need to go to our table and we need to find this number. Now, we know the equipment has a 10-year life, so our period, our time period, our N is going to be 10 years. So we're going to go to our 10 years and we're going to scroll all the way over until we find our number. So 10 years, do we see 5.216 we calculated? No. Well, why not? Ah, crap. I'm using the wrong table. I'm using the present value of a dollar table, right? This factor, it's going to save me $20,000. Go back. Save $20,000 per year in operating costs per year. That's a cash stream. So guess what I need to do? Go to the correct table, present value of an annuity of $1 in the rears. I go to number 10, year 10, and I attempt to find my 5.216, which I do, and I scroll up to figure out what the percentage is, 14%. So we could say that the internal rate of return on this project is a 14%. Okay, I took a little snapshot of how to do it. I just wanted to go to the table and actually show you. Okay, so basically what we say is we compare that 14% with what is our hurdle rate, right? So if this company's required rate of return is equal to or greater than 14%, we're going to buy this machine. So the question we need to ask is, hey, what is the minimum required rate of return for the company? What is their hurdle rate? Well, if it's less than 14, we're going to buy the machine. If it's greater than 14%, we're not going to buy the machine. Okay? We'll go through some examples of how to calculate IRR in the study guide, so I don't want to beat you up too much. That's pretty much it for this chapter. The really main takeaways. Okay, so when we come back, actually no. Yeah, when we come back, we're going to look at our investments, or not our investments. I'm sorry, our study guide, and we're going to solve those exercises that we have to, and we're going to get some practice working with payback method, MPV, all that good stuff. Okay, so tune back in for that one.